Yeah, got the man Dave Stead. Nice one, bro. Just got this interview for Full Flavour Connection show, so we just outside the Union Mashup. We'll go inside and have our interview, and yeah, looking forward to it. Cheers, man.
Come on up.
Place looks nice, man.
Yeah, watch the steps.
Cheers, bro.
Shall we take the seat next to the bog road?
Yeah, that's looking good. What a nice place, bro. What kind of style would you say this is?
This is
Is that I don't
a
know.
psychedelic Edwardian look.
Wow. Pictures are crazy.
Post-industrial psychedelia.
Pictures are crazy, man. Where are the pictures from?
These are Anna Bean.
Are they?
She's a local artist from HU5, and she produces the pictures. And
Nice.
she had an exhibition here, and I bought some of the pictures off her.
Wow, they're amazing, aren't they? She always does like real trippy stuff, doesn't she?
Yeah, she's good.
I remember seeing her at Hull Fair. It was cool.
That's Sam riding me on the bar.
Yeah. Don't worry, Sam. I'm not going to get you in. Don't worry.
You've been here before, though, haven't you?
Yeah. My mate had his surprise birthday party.
Right.
I'm not going to say the number because I don't want to get it wrong in case when he watches it. He'll go, oh, 50 and so and so. Yeah, it was mad. It was mad because like real quiet, and I was surprised. I didn't realise. It's mad surprise parties, isn't it?
Yeah, they're a bit overwhelming.
They're shocking, aren't they? Sometimes because he was really shocked. He just thought.
Yeah.
Me and this girl appeared for a drink, and next thing was everybody here. He was like, surprise! He was like,
you're not psychologically prepared for it, and when all the confetti goes off, and you meet all these people you haven't seen for years, probably someone you don't even want to meet.
Yeah, no, he kept going, yo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So he was like,
it's almost like you've been deceived.
Yeah.
And you suddenly found out. No, I wasn't like a surprise.
It got really emotional, man.
Did it?
Yeah, because I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You get overwhelmed for it.
It's like, wow, I filmed it all as well.
Right. You got him.
And there was a big queue waiting for him to hugging him and that.
Right.
There was like a big queue down there, it's like he kept coming up and...
I guess that's the thing, because like, if you have like 50 people here for a surprise party, everybody wants to speak to you. That's going to take you about 4 hours just to say, hello mate, how you doing?
Yeah, it was just a queue, like queuing up, and I was just putting music on, and after that it was just...
That was a car going by then, That was a big sound system, wasn't it?
Booming bass, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm here at the Union Mashup with Dave
Stead.
That's it. I should have even known, man. Dave Stead.
Yeah.
And
you haven't done your research properly, have you?
I know your name, but I'm just bad for names, bro. I always have been. Just bad for names, but good for faces.
Right.
It's just somewhat my Braincard process sometimes. So I end up just not knowing your name. But I know your first name because your first name's same as mine, so...
That's very easy to remember then, isn't it?
I can trigger it in my head.
Well, you're probably quite lucky being called Dave, because there's about 500 Daves in all, isn't there? I think in my phone I've got about 32 Daves.
I usually, you've got to just put a little finger next to them to know which one's which, innit?
Right.
Just to identify without putting the second name, you know what I mean?
I have to have the second name there.
Oh, right.
Yeah, or Dave from wherever kind of thing, yeah.
But yeah, pleased to have you on the podcast, the Full Flavour TV, West Hull FM podcast. And yeah, just glad that you agreed to do the video. I mean, I've known you for quite a while, haven't I, anyway? So
quite a long time, actually.
Seen you around a few places and stuff.
Yeah, probably from way back, like the community centre and things like that. And what's the one down Park Street?
Oh, the West Indian.
Yeah, the West Indian.
Oh, yeah, the Afro-Caribbean.
When they used to do the nights down there in like the early 90s.
Wow. You used to come down there?
Yeah, I used to come down there a couple of times, yeah.
And they used to upstairs?
Yeah.
This was chocker, didn't they?
They were good nights, yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
When Ras was around.
Right. I don't really...
Ras Schoolborn.
Okay.
Yeah, when he was the...
Was you DJing down there?
Yeah, I used to DJ there, yeah. It was pretty cool. But yeah, you were a Hull lad? Are you a Hull lad?
Well, I wasn't born in Hull. I was actually born in West Yorkshire, in Huddersfield.
Wow.
Yeah, and I came here when I was like 6 years old.
Okay.
And then I lived down Hawthorne Avenue off Hazel Road.
Wow.
lived down there for a while.
My auntie lives down there.
Whereabouts?
She lives quite near the
still
top.
there?
Yeah, she is.
It's all changed, hasn't
Yeah,
it?
she's still. This house is still kind of like intact. Do you know what I mean? So they changed a lot of it, didn't they? But she's kind of. If you're heading from Hesel Road and you go towards Anlaby Road, she's on the right hand side.
Right.
But it's near. They're quite near the top.
Right.
There used to be an Indian shop that used to sell foreign foods.
Right, well...
And my mum always used to send us down there.
I lived next door to the Hawthorne Hotel, the pub, 216 Hawthorne Avenue it was. I think we rented it off the Bass Brewery. It was like £7 a week or something like that.
It's like a social club, isn't it?
Well, the Hawthorne Hotel was a pub,
Okay.
Bass Charrington pub. And it was when Clive Sullivan used to run it.
Wow.
He had it there with his wife Rosalind and Anthony, his son, and that. So we used to knock about with them quite a lot. But then I was about 13, 14 years old, I think. Yes, but that house is gone now. They've knocked it down, they've knocked the pub down, and in fact, they've knocked the whole of Hawthorne Avenue down, really, haven't they? And rebuilt it with them strange green brick houses.
Wow.
Yeah, and then after that, I moved down Endyke Lane.
Alright, cool.
Yeah.
So, how did you get into music then? Well, how did you get into drumming first?
I got into drumming. Well, I wasn't a drummer, I was a guitarist to start with. I bought a guitar for £1.50 from a charity shop in Cot, and very naively started playing the guitar and realised that you can't just pick a guitar up and just start playing it like that. You need to practice it. And I got very frustrated with it within about a couple of months. And a friend of mine had a drum kit and he wanted a guitar. So I swapped it for a drum kit. And I picked that up far, far easier than picking the guitar up.
Wow.
So that was when I was about 12, 13 years old. Doing drum lessons at school. But then they stopped me doing drum lessons because you used to do it. It was when schools actually taught you instruments during school time. So you would miss your lessons to go and do it, which was great, to go and do that. But then all the teachers started complaining because I was getting so behind in other lessons. They stopped the lessons, which really annoyed me, really.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's how I got into it. That's how I sort of progressed with it. And that just made you more determined to want to be better at it by not being told that you can do it. It just makes you want to do it more, doesn't it, when you're that age? Yeah. And then, we did all the sort of school bands that you have when you're playing in the garage, that kind of stuff. And then I was in a band called the Luddites with my brother when I was like 16. And
What did you play in the band?
well, I was a drummer in the band.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I was drumming in the band. And at that point, there was quite a few other bands from Hull. We used to have the indie charts. And we were all in the indie charts at the same time on independent labels and that. And the Tube did a big thing on Hull at the time.
I remember, yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
which was quite good. God, I mean, this is like mid-80s.
Tube, yeah, they came to...
Yeah.
they came to Spiders.
We went to Spiders,
They did a
that's
big
right.
feature on Spiders, didn't they?
They did. International Rescue were playing at Spiders. And Swift Nick. Do you know Swift Nick?
Did his poetry on
Yeah, that's
on,
right.
on it's only on the way to Spiders.
Yeah,
didn't it?
yeah, he got on a bus.
Recited some,
That's
yeah.
right, yeah. So we was on that, and that was my claim to fame at that point, kind of thing. And we did a few gigs around the country and what have you, and we did a few little, we did a Peel session and what have you, which at that point was massive to me, doing that kind of stuff, going down to London to do a Peel session at 16. And that
You
was-
kind of did a bit of music from earlier on then, from quite a young
yeah,
age then.
quite young, really. Yeah. And then I had to go to college, didn't I, and start to learn how to be an electrician and stuff. So I did that, and I thought, I can't do this. This is not me, really. And I just left.
At what age?
I left at 18. Only did it for a couple of years, and signed on because everyone I knew was signing on anyway at that point, and that meant I had more time for messing about on the drums and things. And then the Luddites split up for whatever reason. I can't even remember why it was. It just happens, doesn't it?
Was there a woman in the band?
No.
Because usually they split up. Usually there's a woman in the band.
No.
The guys like see the woman and they split up.
No, there was no sort of politics in that
Right.
side of things. Really, it was just, I don't know. I think it might have come out of just frustration because I think you sort of hit a level of how much you can do on your own because it was that sort of punk ethic of DIY where you would do everything yourself on a small time basis, and then once you've done as much as you can at that level, you need help.
You need to progress further, don't you? And Hall didn't have that. Didn't have any like labels or anything to progress further. Because we're still like at that time we're still like out on a limb.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. And the labels that were about were little independent things. They were ones that could help you out. And unless you have those contacts, it's not good. It's just not going to happen for you. So I think that's why just frustration.
Yeah,
like, this is not going to go any further, so why bother, kind of thing. And then I went back to college to do electronic engineering and design at university. So I was actually a university student for about 6 months, and then I got asked to join the Beautiful South at that point. Really.
Wow. So how did that kind of come around?
I think it came about because I used to work at the Adelphi. I used to do the sound at the Adelphi at that point as well. So because of that, nearly every original band in Hull would play the Adelphi, so you get to know them. Plus, I was playing in a band at that point with a couple of mates of mine called Cartoon. We were just gigging around locally, really. Well, I say that at that point, those days, you could probably only play 2 or 3 places doing your own original stuff. And I knew various bands who knew the House Minds people, really. And when it materialised, when they'd broken up and they were starting a new band, the Beautiful South, they just put the word out, said, "Oh, do you know any drummers?" And my name got mentioned a couple of times.
And who was the Beautiful South? Who from the House Minds went into the Beautiful South then?
Well, Paul Heaton and Dave Hemingway were both members of the House Minds.
Where did Fatboy Slim come into it?
Well, Fatboy Slim was in the House Minds, but obviously when they broke up, he went off to do his different stuff.
Solo
really.
stuff.
Yeah, his solo stuff. I guess it was. I think he started off doing a thing called Pizza Man. It was his first sort of DJ name that he started off at.
Was he a student in Hull or was he?
Well, I didn't know the House Martins really.
No, I mean the Fatboy Slim guy. Was he a student in Hull? Or?
He was a student in Hull, yeah, and he just became part of them really. But I didn't really have anything to do with the House Martins until afterwards when Dave and Paul asked me to join them with the Beautiful South, really. Yeah, and then from then that just went on for the next.
Because the House Martins were quite commercially known, weren't they?
At that point, yeah. They were certainly the biggest band from this area by a long shot. But they hadn't been together that long.
No,
it was only 2 or 3 years or something. But it wasn't. It's quite strange. It wasn't really my thing, the House Minds. You know, I was a bit more sort of left field than that. Certainly musically, anyway.
So you knew Paul Heaton anyway?
No, I knew of them enough to go. Well, it was when you're in a band in Hull. You know who's in another band.
Yeah.
And when you see each other, you go, all right.
Yeah.
You know, and so you kind of know of each other, really. You know, that was, again, it was only the point where the Adelphi and 1 or 2 other places would actually put original bands on.
So was it that where we all kind of like, you knew it was kind of a little bit commercially successful?
Yeah.
And like when they asked you, what do you think?
Well, it was quite thrilling to be asked, really. To be asked to do anything on merit is a real nice thing to be done. You know, it's quite an achievement. It's sort of a bit of a recognition from other people, I guess, isn't it?
So did they know that you was a good drummer? Or was it recommended from someone?
They were recommended, really. Yeah, I don't think they'd seen me drum. I don't think. Though I had played with the House Minds at a gig at Welly Community Centre. Crikey, yeah, I'd done 1 gig, but I think we were like the first band on. I don't think we even stuck around to watch them, you know. It was when the community centre, which I think is the mosque now, isn't it? At the back of...
Oh, the one on the one,
yeah.
That
used to be the community centre.
Serious?
In the 80s,
wow.
Yeah. And they used to put bands on for like 50p or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, so I played with them, but I didn't really take any notice. It wasn't my thing, so I thought there's no point sticking around watching them, really.
Yeah, so obviously you joined the Beautiful South. So how did it go from then? I mean, did you start playing? Did you start just practicing with them, or what?
We went over to a studio in Leeds to start writing songs. So we spent a week over there, and I think it wasn't just about getting together to write the songs. It was about getting us all together because we didn't know each other. So there had to be a bit of bonding there as well, kind of thing. And I guess by going out of town, it's only Wakefield where we was at, but it sort of brings you together a little bit. And we did that, and we wrote various songs there, and then we did a bit of rehearsal, wrote some more songs, and before I knew it, we was in Italy recording an album.
Wow.
We went to Italy on the train. We took the train to Italy. We didn't get the flight there. So it takes about 24 hours there, which again, because we didn't know each other that well, was a really good thing to do, because it brought us together a lot more. Us lot just on a train, going to Milan, and then spending a month in Milan in the studio there, with only us there. We didn't know anybody else there, kind of thing. Brings you together a lot better.
Did you gel together good though? I mean, no, because sometimes from the off, did you kind of warm towards each other? And...
Yeah, I think we did. We did. I mean, it was a bit odd for me because I was the last one to join, so they'd all been together quite a while. Plus, Paul and Dave, Hemingway the singer, knew each other from the House Minds, so they were pretty pally anyway. And Sean, who was the bass player, worked for the House Minds, so those three knew each other pretty well already. And Dave Rotherham, the guitarist, came in, and he'd been with them for a while before I joined. So I was always like the latecomer. And you always feel like the latecomer for a while anyway, don't you?
You've got to kind of make a bit of an impression.
You do, but everyone's got their in jokes already, haven't they, kind of stuff. So, and it gelled together fine, you know.
Good.
But it works because we stuck around with each other for 15 years. So certainly from that point, it was all right. Yeah.
So you made the album in Milan.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, and then
obviously from there, you take your songs and you go on.
Yeah.
You go on to promote it. Did you have a manager at that time, or?
We had a manager, Paul Thompson, at that time. Yeah, who lived in Hull, and then from there, it kind of within a few months, the first single was out, which went to number 2 in the charts.
Amazing.
And then released consecutive singles, consecutive albums over the next few years, which all did fairly well, really.
So what the first single was?
Song Forever was the first single. Yeah.
And how was that then for you guys? Obviously, for yourself even, because obviously you just kind of spearheaded into the into the limelight sort of thing.
Yeah.
I know you're a cool guy anyway. Do you know what I mean?
It was, but I've never been one who wanted the limelight kind of thing. You know, it's quite good being a drummer because you don't want all that anyway.
You're not the front man.
Exactly. So you don't sort of adhere to that kind of adulation from people anyway. Being a front person, I think most front people want that, don't they? You know,
got the charisma and the character. Yeah,
you've got to want it, haven't you, to be a front person in a band, really. So that sort of side of things never really bothered me, and I was, of course, I was real chuffed about getting in the charts and stuff, and being on top of the pops and being on TV and all that kind of stuff.
So who was number 1 then? Can you remember at the time?
Crikey, who was number 1 then?
Because it can kind of give people an idea.
I can't remember who was number 1 then.
Can you remember what year it was?
That was 1990. Who kept us off number 1? I know Soul to Soul kept us off number 1 at one point with Jazzy B, but I can't remember which single that was.
Wow.
You see, the thing is, I don't talk about the beautiful South all the time, so I never remember all the stuff that's in there. Yeah,
that's cool. That's why I'm here. Because you're not a guy that talks about it.
We need to know who's number 1 there, don't we? We kept stuff number 1.
Maybe I'll do my research and put it in the bit.
Yeah, please do.
Put it as a subtitle
and save me. Yeah,
we'll do.
Yeah.
So from there, number 2, and then after that, you remember going on tour with the success from
the first tour we did was just the 5 of us touring around the country in small venues. Well, small venues to what we did towards the latter part of the band's career. They were like 500 capacity venues, but it was kind of strange because the House Mountains had already been established. There was already a load of people there that wanted to buy the records and come and see us.
Because Paul Heaton's voice is quite distinctive.
Very distinctive, really, and he had a lot of fans of his voice. And when we started gigging, it was all House Minds fans that came to see us, really. Because when we actually started gigging, the record had only just come out that sort of week, really. It was at a time when you used to put a record out and go on tour to promote the record, and in hope that by travelling around the country, doing interviews or whatever, doing gigs, more people would buy your record. It doesn't really work like that anymore now because people don't make that much money off records. In fact, records don't come out, it's all streaming.
True.
So they don't necessarily have to coordinate that together now. But that's how we, for the first 5 or 6 years of the band, that's how we made our money, selling records. And the gigs actually made no money. In fact, we used to borrow money off the record company to pay for the hotels and the buses and all that kind of stuff. And we used to try and make a bit back on selling merchandise. That's how it worked. Even when we started playing much bigger gigs, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people kind of thing, it was still a bit like that, where we still needed subsidies to do the gigs. But ticket prices were low in comparison to what they are now anyway. Whereas now, bands' main income is their touring money.
True.
And not from sales of their songs, which is quite bizarre.
Still sell a lot of merchandise though. Merchandise.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
Merchandise is still a good.
Yeah. Everyone wants a tour T-shirt, don't they? Kind of thing. Yeah.
That's still stood.
But it's strange that the streaming element now that exists is really killing new talent, really, because it's so hard to make a living out of streaming. I mean, even way back in like the sort of 80s and early 90s, as a small band, you could go to a gig and sell 10 copies of your 7-inch single, and that would pay for your petrol and your food to get to the gig and back. Whereas now, no one's going to buy any products. Yes, there's still vinyl people who buy stuff, but
they can go on. They can't just download it, can't they?
Exactly.
There's loads of like illegal downloading as well. What people do, so it kills like the artist. That's why they always say, just support our music by not just downloading it for free.
It is the only sort of musicians that make a big living out of streaming are the huge artists.
They've already been established anyway, haven't they?
The huge ones, and Ed Sheerans and whatever kind of thing. The little people, they're not going to make enough money not to pack the jobs in anyway, which is a bit odd, and it's because the deals that the record companies do
and
with the streaming people, and there has been an inquiry into it. The government have been running an inquiry now for about a couple of years, looking at it and seeing about the fairness of it, and I do believe, sometime in the future that kind of deal thing will change. I mean, one of the things that's just changed recently is a lot of bands, when they leave the record company, they're usually in debt. They're usually asked to leave because they're not selling any records anymore and making any money. But the way things work is the record company lends you the money to go and record, so you pay for your recording. They lend you the money for the publicity and everything, and then you've got to pay it back through record sales. And if you don't sell enough, you pretty much get dumped. But what's happened with all those bands from the 80s, 90s and noughties or what have you that got dumped, those record companies still recoup that money from streaming. So a lot of those bands, there might be a mediocre 80s, 90s band who maybe get 500,000 streams a year or whatever. They get nothing because it goes to the record company.
Because the record company still own
because they still owe the money. They still owe the money to them as well, kind of thing. But what's been happening is a couple of labels have finally said, oh look, let's just write that debt off and allow them to at least make a couple of quid off their streaming. But they're not usually very generous. And plus record companies have changed a lot now. They used to be run by music enthusiasts, people who would go to gigs, who would be part of the band structure, kind of, being very much involved what was going on, and they would have a love of music, whereas most record companies now are run by lawyers and those kind of people, business people really, kind of thing. And I think that's taken quite a bit out of music business in that sense. It's taken away the sort of enthusiasm that record companies used to have. It's very, very different, even when we'd finished, which was like 10 years ago, so 15 years ago now, really.
Serious? Is that how long it's been finished for?
Well, we finished in 2007.
Well, what was the reason for that?
I think some of the band had enough of each other, of touring and being around each other. You can sort of look at it like, if you've got a gang of mates and you're with each other for 15 years, from your early 20s
Personalities grow, don't they?
Yeah, they grow, and also, people get different lives, and
You get pressure.
people want different things,
true.
and people are different when it comes down to it, aren't they? You know,
People outgrow certain roles, don't they?
Yeah,
And that's
do.
what happens. You don't know from when you start. You've got like enthusiasm and all that drive, and then it can change, can't it?
Yeah.
At first, it's like it's just great, but every sort of thing that's a novelty kind of can wear off, can't it?
Yeah, of course.
And like being around the same people all the time and stuff like that. But it was good memories.
Oh, great memories, yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, 15. 15. Is that how long it's got? 15 years.
15 years.
15 years is a good run. You know what I mean?
Well,
and
it's an incredible run
yeah.
for a band. Yeah, at that level, without a doubt. Yeah.
And still, and they still do like. I mean, I remember you did a homecoming sort of thing, didn't you?
Was that the thing at the
Was
wedding?
it? Well, yeah.
Yeah. It was when was it one of the brewery companies, Carling or something like that? They would get bands to go back to their hometown and play a small gig there. That's right. And we did Dave Mays' Welly Club. Yeah. I think the capacity is 500, but Dave Mays managed to get about 900 in. I think.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Well, it was a good homecoming gig.
Yeah.
I mean, you one of the biggest, if not the biggest band that's come out of Hull.
Yeah, I would say so.
Successful as well.
Yeah.
And still, people still love the beautiful South.
They do.
People still talk about you. People even kind of you're at the level even of Oasis and all them. Do you know what I mean? Representing your hometown. So you know, I mean, what's your biggest sellout? I mean, obviously you're doing all these sellout tours and stuff.
The biggest gigs we did in this country. Well, the biggest ever gig we ever did was Glastonbury, which was on I think we played a Friday night, like. Late on, and there's about 60,000 there on the main stage.
Did it look? We're just about to see of people.
Well, it was weird because like it was to us like we're just like because we were staying in a hotel in Bath, and I remember we went down and it was just like we're at Glastonbury. In a way, it was kind of like a big affair, but in another way, it's like it's just another gig, you know. And we sort of. I think we was there a couple of hours earlier, did the gig, had a few drinks and then pissed off back to the hotel room. That's what we did. We didn't really hang about. That's just what we were like, you know. But the biggest gigs we ever did of our own was at what was then called the McAlpine Stadium in Huddersfield. I think it's called the John Smith Stadium now or something. I can't remember what it's called now. Which is like 40,000.
Wow. When
you get people on the pitch and in the stands. We did 2 gigs. We did one at Calpine, as it was called then, and one at down at Crystal Palace, down in London. Not the football ground, the running ground. We did it there. They were our biggest gigs that we did. But it's strange when you're going from 500 on the first tour, then you progress to 1,000. That's quite a nice, easy step. And we used to tour that for quite a few years, and then we would go up to like 3,000 or 4,000. And then after that, you jump to the arenas, which is like 10,000. And that's a massive jump, because what happens is your stage is as big as your first sort of gigs you played, the main room. The stage is as big as that. So immediately, you're 5 metres away from the other members of the band and stuff. So you lose that intimacy on stage. And it becomes a bit cold. I remember when we first did like Sheffield Arena and that, it was really weird for us, and because you have to project yourself in a different way. It's a different sort of style of playing. I remember discussing it afterwards. It was like that's all a bit weird, and we thought, we won't do that again. But we got offered them again later, and we did it, and then we got used to that. Those big stages But our songs, it's really weird, Beautiful South songs, don't really suit that big arena type thing. You know, it's not like some big rock band where you can really project yourself with these big sing-along, clap-along bands kind of thing. But we managed to achieve it in some of the big arenas. It was quite surprising, really.
What would you say that is? What would you say the reason for that is? Is that because it was so popular?
I don't know, because we weren't a show band. You know, like, we didn't dance on stage. We didn't sort of project ourselves massively. In fact, most of the time, the basses and the guitars would just be stood there, you know.
I think it was the kind of content of your music.
That's probably
Do
what
you know
it was.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know, because everybody relates to it.
Yeah, well, I guess Oasis were like that. Oasis, I've been to see quite a few times, and I remember when they first played a big arena, which was Sheffield Arena again. I went to see them there, and they were just stood there, but it was still really good because everyone was into the songs and that. I think the people who follow Oasis don't want a big show or whatever kind of thing. And I guess it's the same with the Beautiful South. They weren't going there for a show; they were going there for the songs.
So people just kind of like home into the music,
Yeah,
don't they?
yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
So
yeah.
what's how's the process of writing the music then? How was it all? Just give me a bit of a...
Oh, how did that happen?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just give me a bit of an idea of how...
There was a general process of where Paul, the singer and songwriter, would, over a period of about a year, collect lyrics and ideas. And then he would go away for about 2 weeks with Dave Rotherham, the guitarist, usually out of town, sometimes a foreign country, usually a foreign country they used to go to. And they would spend a couple of weeks together putting chord shapes and arrangements of those chords to those lyrical ideas. And they would then come back after a couple of weeks, we'd go into the rehearsal room and we'd say, right, we've got a bit of a chorus, a bit of a verse, a bit of a middle eight or whatever. These are the lyrics, and then we would put bass lines, drums, keyboards, percussion, brass on top of that. So it would build really slowly. And some of these songs, Paul and Dave had definitive ideas of how this song should end up, or what direction it should be. Some of the songs had little ideas and had to be built upon, and when somebody did something, it'd be like, okay, let's go with that a little bit. So they would build up like that, and that would happen in the rehearsal room. And then from there, we'd go to the studio, and once we're in the studio, they would be tweaked a bit, because once you're in the studio, you can analyse everything so much. You go, well, that's not right. It's not working like that. So you change stuff while you was in there. But usually, roughly what was in the rehearsal room would end up on the album, really. But some songs would be very easy to do.
Because quite simple, but catchy, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. I mean, Paul and Dave were exceptional songwriters, really, you know. And to be as successful as what they were is a quite a remarkable thing, really, for them to achieve that. But sometimes you get a song which you play and it just never sounded right. It never worked, and potentially that might be used next time we start recording. We'll try it again or whatever, you know. And some songs would be, look, here's a riff, here's the chords, here's the lyrics, and it would just be like verse, chorus, bridge, we're off kind of thing, and it would almost write itself because of the type of band we were. There would be like almost like an immediate structure to it amongst us doing it. But it's like I say, someone
you get that format, don't you? After a while, you kind of, you know what I mean? You kind of know what works, don't you?
You can't get away from that format.
No.
Once you've got that format, it's really,
like
really hard.
Isn't it? Yeah,
It is. It's really, really hard because it sounds right to you. You go, well, that sounds right, and you go, well, if it sounds right, it must be right then, you know. So you tend to pretty much sound the same.
Added ingredients here and there.
Yeah, you do really.
Yeah, cool. So where would you say? I mean, you said that you went abroad.
Yeah.
So abroad, where would you say the most memorable gig that you've done abroad? Pleasurable, memorable.
The pleasurable was when we did. I think we'd been. Well, going to America the first time was great.
Wow!
Because you go there, and it was quite odd America because we'd do the East Coast and the West Coast. We never really played in Central America, and we'd play all the big cities like New York, Chicago, and San Francisco, and LA, and all that kind of stuff. And it was quite good because at that point we used to get written about quite a lot in the NME when the NME was quite a big music magazine. So we were kind of tied in with this kind of English indie band sort of thing. Even though we weren't part of that here, we were seen as part of that over there. So we would play to typically between 1,000 and 2,000 people, really, which was great to go all that way, and those people would be there, and very enthusiastic crowds, really. But just being in America, touring around is just a laugh, you know.
You can go to America, and you know what I mean? Because, as you know, it used to be hard to break America.
Yeah. Well, I think in order to do that kind of thing, to get that reward, we were signed to Elektra Records over there, and realistically, they would put more effort into the band.
Who knew signed to Elektra Records over there?
We were signed to Elektra, the record label kind of thing.
American record label?
Yeah,
right.
quite a big label over there. Yeah.
Is that on the whole? So they signed you?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. I guess they just saw the success here and thought we'll try and replicate it over there, really.
How was that relationship?
It was all right because we had a sort of go-between. We had an American manager who would deal with all that side of stuff. And we never really got involved in that side of things, really. We weren't businessmen at all, and that would be run by our business side of management, really. We would just turn up for the gigs and
do what you do
what
best.
we need to do.
Nice.
Yeah. It's you do need to know a bit about that kind of stuff, especially when you get to that
Music
level,
industry,
really.
it's big, isn't it? It's like another business, isn't it?
Well,
there's a lot to it, isn't there? So from being a musician to bloody having to run a music business, it's different, isn't it?
It's totally different.
It takes a lot of the element away of like the pleasure of
it does.
being a musician, doesn't it? You've got to manage all that side as well.
You have to have a different head on to do with business side of stuff, but also, I mean, I was told like if you're getting 80% of what you're supposed to get, you're doing well. That's the music industry, because you've no idea how much money you've earned at that gig. You've no idea how much money you've earned selling that amount of records or whatever. You can do audits and things on the record companies.
So you're getting 80%?
No, what I mean is you don't get all your money. You're supposed to get.
Okay.
You're lucky if you get
80%
of it.
okay.
Yeah, if you're getting all of it, you're doing incredible.
Yeah. Mm.
But because there's so many people with fingers in those pies, everyone takes a little bit off, or everyone changes the figure a little bit here and there, and it's impossible to have someone checking every little bit of it. So, you know, we did okay out of it, but I'm sure other people did okay out of it as well, out of us, really.
You're a successful band, so
yeah.
Everybody gets to eat.
Yeah, we got to eat fairly well, yeah.
So what would you say is the downside to it then, or the most craziest?
The downside to it. The downside is, as you get a little bit older, you get a bit more tired, and touring is really tiresome. You're going from the gig to the hotel, to the next gig, to the hotel, whatever kind of thing. But saying that, I really enjoyed that part of it, really. That's the bit I enjoyed the most, was touring, really. But I think for some people, it got a bit tiresome going back to a hotel room every night. You know?
Did you get to relax in the destinations?
No. Like you do a tour of America. America is a real typical example of how sort of hard it is for some bands. Is you would do a gig in like New York, you would hang around for a couple of hours afterwards, you would then get on a bus and drive for 13, 14 hours to the next gig, try and sleep on the bus, depends how much partying's going on really. You'd then get off the bus, go and do your sound check, hang around, do the gig, hang around again, get on the bus, drive another 10, 12 hours again kind of thing, and you'd do that, which the first time I did it was absolutely incredible, great thing to do. But once you've done it a few times and that, it's what you get is there's a lot of you who want to party, because it's not just the band, there's all the crew on there as well, and there's those who don't want to party so much and maybe want to get some sleep, but it's very difficult to do that. Yeah. So that's quite tiring for some people, and especially when people got kids and wives and girlfriends and that kind of thing. You know, some people want to go home on a night, don't they, and put their feet up and be in familiar surroundings. So that's probably the hardest bit, but like I say, that's a bit I thoroughly enjoyed, really.
Being a single guy all the time, or
Yeah, most of the time, yeah. Yeah, most of the time when I was with the band I was, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like anything that's really good, you can become complacent to it or even jaded by it in a way, kind of thing. Maybe sometimes we did too much of things and we should have had bigger gaps between doing stuff.
Is there pressure from the company though?
Yeah, they would always expect you to do stuff, but we weren't one of these bands who. A lot of these bands would go on tour for a year. I don't know how they survive things like that.
Take a break.
It's not good for the soul. I don't think for that long you've got to come home, haven't you?
Enjoy it. The rest is as good as the work. Isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to have the balance.
Yeah.
Like anything.
So downside. I guess it was just the last sort of year of the band, really. It was, you could tell the vibe wasn't what it was 15 years previous to that. We became separated with our own lives, is what happened, really.
Was the relationship still good between you guys?
What now?
No, I mean, around that time, did that lead to it, or?
Amongst some of us, yeah. Amongst some of us, it was okay. Amongst others, it was we'd only see each other when we was with the band. When we first started out as a band, we would hang out together even when we're not doing band stuff. That changed over the years, and towards the end, we weren't really hanging out with each other so much, really. So that had changed. And as for now, I see Dave Rotherham, the guitarist, only because he lives around the avenues area.
Local, true.
So I bump into him and we talk politely to each other, really. It's almost like, I don't know, they say the past is another country, don't they? And it's like that. It's like I knew Dave from another country. That's how I feel with it, really. I don't know how he feels about it. I see Sean, the bass player, very occasionally. He does still live around here, but he hardly ever goes out. And Dave Hemingway, the singer, I've spoke to it a couple of times in the last few years, but I don't see him because he lives over. I think he lives near Stoke now. I think. And Paul, I hadn't spoke to Paul for quite a few years. Really, he does his own thing.
He's still kind of.
Yeah, he's still got a lot of success. Yeah, he's still doing okay. And I don't really see people that were involved with the band either, because that was mainly based within the record industry, which I'm not really part of so much anymore now. It's quite surprising. It's really weird that being a member of a band, being a member of a successful band, when it comes to an end, you don't get your 90 days notice and say, right, you're going to get made redundant after 90 days. All those kind of employment laws and things don't exist with bands. It's like, it's over, see ya. That kind of thing. So it was weird I think it was weird for everybody. But I think it was all used to having a lot of time off. So for the next 6 months to a year, it was like, we're just having some time off. But then after 2-3 years, it's like, actually, because you lose a little bit of your identity, because that's what you identify yourself with, being a band. Or it's like anyone who's got a job. Your job identity is a big part of you, isn't it? You know. So that can change.
Yeah. So obviously, you finish in the band. I remember going to your place down Park Avenue, your house.
The house, right?
Yeah, you had all them.
Okay.
You had all them kind of like. You had a few people living there.
Remember that? Yeah. People used to stay there.
That's what I mean. Yeah. It was kind of people that were kind of quite creative.
Right. Yeah,
you had a few people that were creative, like lived in your house. I remember coming down to your house.
I used to have a fashion company.
So is that like the developments after the band? Because obviously you made a bit of money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You kind of like, you're not going to go into being an electrician here or going to bloody being a sound guy. So what was the kind of like goals after that?
2 or 3 years before the band split up, it was already heading in that direction. So I already thought I need to be setting myself up, doing stuff when this is over. Because I've got to admit, when I first joined the band, I thought, this is only going to last 5 years. I really didn't expect it to last 15 years.
Wow, so you quadrupled what you thought.
That was my guess of how long I was going to be doing it for. So when it was coming towards it, there was a sense that it was coming. And I thought, I need to have something. So I set up a restaurant here. The Union Mashup used to be called the Boar's Nest. I opened a restaurant here because it was something I wanted to do. Someone who I met, who I helped financially set the place up, and he helped me out knowledge-wise how to do it. I had a fashion company designing females' clothes, women's clothes, and that sort of high-end fashion.
Was that
that was
obviously a designer that you employed, or went into business with?
We went into business with him, yeah. A guy from Hull called John Body.
So a guy was designing women's clothes?
That's right,
Cool.
yeah. No, he was a fantastic designer, he really was.
Not that I'm against that, but yeah.
We had a lot of outlets around the country doing that, and it was okay, but then he wanted to do other things, and that sort of folded did that, but the restaurant carried on for quite some time. So that's what I went into at that point, and that's what occupied my time, really, doing that kind of stuff. And then the restaurant finished, and I set up the Union Mashup, which is anything really. It's like an events room.
It's been going ever since.
Yeah, and it's still going okay now.
Yeah, established.
Yeah. The good thing is it's like a really good hobby for me. You know, I do make a bit of a living out of it, but it's not essential to me. So I can play around with it a little bit, and we can mess about with stuff.
A few quirky things going on.
Well, it means I can do nights which friends of mine wouldn't be allowed to do at other places because they don't make them any money. So we can do that, the little sort of poetry nights. We used to do quite a few art events here now, but we don't do that so much anymore, you know. But it allows me to do things like that, which is quite good. And now I'm also involved in festivals. I do the Vista Festival, which we do down here, which is like a voluntary thing that I do to sort of create a good vibe on the street, really. That's what that's about. And getting the businesses and the people around the area involved in that.
So you've got your Union Mashup upstairs.
Yeah.
Downstairs, is that really nice? Is it a bar?
That's a restaurant down there.
Is it? Yeah, it's really nice, isn't it?
Social Distortion.
Yeah, it's
I
like a micro bar, isn't it? Sort of micro bar restaurant sort of thing.
Well, I used to run the whole building as a restaurant, and then I got kind of fed up of dealing with chefs because chefs are all mad, you see. So I then allowed other businesses to use the downstairs, and at the moment there's a guy called Mark who runs the Social Distortion, which is like Korean, Malaysian food, very sort of experimental for Hull, really, very experimental for Hull. And unfortunately he only opened just before the lockdown, so realistically he's been there 2 and a bit years now, but he hasn't been open for that period of time. So it's still quite new, and he's setting up at the moment.
Building the clientele up.
And he's building it up, and it's difficult. The guy at the other side is Andy Murphy, who does the 80 Days Beer House, which is a craft ale bar, which has been going for, crikey, is it 8 years now? Something like that. I can't quite remember.
Is that the one next door to you?
Yeah, just down below there.
That bit of micro bar, that one.
Yeah. And,
micro bars are kind of in fashion.
They are. I think he was one of the sort of early ones in this area, but there's hundreds of them out now, isn't there, kind of thing.
I go to Manchester a lot.
Right.
There's lots over there.
Yeah, tons of them. Yeah.
But there's lots of everything in Manchester. They can afford it, can't they?
It's a different kind of city to Hull, really. It's different in a lot of ways. When something new opens in Manchester, new restaurant or a new bar, it gets swallowed up by the masses of people that are there. You open a new bar or restaurant in Hull, you take away from another bar or restaurant.
True.
Their customers will come into you.
Yeah. There's only a certain amount of people that can serve, isn't they?
But Manchester just seems to keep
more
and more.
Melting pot in it, and they've got lots of disposable income more than here.
Yes, they have. Yeah, it's a different sort of setup, really. Isn't it? You know, there's not infinite money in Hull at all.
Because they've got 2 Premiership teams, which helps, doesn't it? A lot of investment it brings, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course it does. Yeah, it brings glamour to the city as well, doesn't it? You never know. City might get the Premiership again one day. Who knows? Yeah.
But yeah, so You're a father as well?
I am. I've got a daughter who's just finished her degree.
Is she musically orientated or?
No, she played the flute and then she gave up the flute, went to university to be a doctor, and she's just finished her degree. Literally last week it was. She just finished her final exams and she's now Dr. Mia Stead.
Oh, right, great.
Yeah, she's got a couple of years working in the hospitals, and after that she can go off.
Yeah, the mixed race guy?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because I remember back in the day.
She
you used to go to London a lot to see it.
Yeah, well, I lived in London quite a lot. Really, I had a house down there. For
not that I'm stalking you, but you know.
That's all right. For about 20.
Got to do a bit of research.
For about 20 years, I to and fro from London to Hull.
I remember talking to you about it years ago when she was quite young.
She was. Well, she's come up quite a lot now.
Yeah.
Now she's 23. She don't want to come here anymore.
Wow.
Yeah, she's a London girl at heart, really. So she's moving back to London after the university. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you've only got one daughter then?
I've got a stepdaughter, little Millie, who's 16. Coming up to 16 this year. And she's just getting into her GCSEs now.
So at this stage in life, everything's going good? You're happy?
Yeah, I think so.
Kind of just relaxing and...
As content as I can be with a Tory government in power, you know. I plod along now, really.
You stayed in Hull as well, which is...
I did. I actually moved to North Ferriby last year.
Yeah, but I mean, you're still like local, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not like, you know, like you still... I mean, what keeps you... Obviously, 'cause you're a successful guy, you're kind of one of the celebrities in Hull, I'd say. Even though you wouldn't say yourself, you've been one of the most successful bands in the UK, and even still, it is still a successful name to be associated with. What keeps Mr. Stead keeping cool?
Here in Hull.
Yeah,
It just feels right. If it feels right, you just go with it, don't you?
Because in Hull we don't shout about things, do we?
No.
We just
in fact,
no matter who you are,
you can't shout about things in Hull. Someone will have a go at you.
Someone will beat you down
very quickly. Yeah, they will.
What about Ronan Gift? Are you friends with him? Because he's another successful guy that's come out of Hull and
I've
still
met
is still successful.
him quite a few times. He lives down in London now. I think he lives in Holloway in London, doesn't he? I've bumped into him when he's been back in Hull. I bumped into him a couple of times in London many years ago. But because he's back playing now, isn't he? He's going out and doing tours and things. Yeah. But I mean, he had immense success, didn't he? With Final Cannibals. It was short-lived, but it was huge.
His name though, Gift people.
Yeah, people still remember.
People know his name, don't they? So even on his name.
He's got his big head down there on that mural down the street. Yeah.
Yeah, so and he got into acting, didn't he? So he's been in a few good films and whatever.
I don't know if he was in Heartbeat once. I remember that.
Yeah.
Okay, no problems.
Peace. What a great interview. Just on the couch with.
Are you happy with that?
Yeah, on the couch with Dave Stead, the man from Hull. Well, sorry, Huddersfield. I'll say, yeah. So over and out. Peace out, Full Flavour TV. West Hall FM.